All right, Lil Barcaski, listen, it took some doing to get you to talk about what you do because you are a very, very gifted, talented, and successful ghostwriter. And I know you're not allowed to say some of the books that you've written, but you have a prolific library behind you. And so normally what I was thinking is that we would edit and mask your voice. But thank you so much for being willing to use your real voice.
Yeah, no problem.
So now you are the VP for LongBar Creative Solutions, and one of the companies that's a part of that is Ghostwriters Network. And
Sure.
so let's start off by talking about, let's start off with this because this blew my mind. You're in this industry. What percentage of business books do you suppose a ghostwriter is involved at some level?
As I told you, I think 90%. You're looking at 80 to 90%. It's rare.
That's amazing.
Business book.
I mean, obviously, I think the reason why is because it takes some effort to put a book together. And I think that it also requires some skill. I mean, if you've never written a book, you don't really understand what goes into it. And so there's a lot of organization that goes into it. Just project management of it as well. And having gone through that process as many times as you and your team have gone through, it's no big deal for you. This is just another day at work. Whereas, if I'm a successful executive or business owner, I've got a lot of other things going on. It's challenging to sit down, put pen to paper, as it were, and then just go through this entire process. And honestly, Lil, it may not be a good use of their time based on other responsibilities that they have.
Right. I always say we have a slogan at LongBar Creatives: "Don't mow your own lawn." I spend less on my lawnmower for a month to get my gardens all beautiful than I make in an hour by far. Right. So why would? Okay. So in terms of that, your business. Of course, you know what your business is about. You know your subject matter. You can tell it to someone. But to sit down and spend the hours to craft it properly, to understand sentence structure and syntax and flow, and how should a book start and end? What are the parameters? It's different today. Back in the day, you put acknowledgments up front because everybody acknowledged her. Now you put that at the back because when you go to Amazon, what do you want to see when you got to flip over and look at a few pages? You want to see the introduction in the first couple of pages. You want to
get right into
have that technology now. So one of the things we really do is try to get people to start strong, build an introduction, especially with business books. You've got to have a really good forward, someone important that writes it and gives you that accolade. And we go through the whole process. The next thing is that strong introduction. So when they look at the book, they go, why should I read this guy's book on sales? Who the hell is he? Is he anybody I really care about? Most people want to jump right into their subject matter before explaining to the person why they should even read it, what's the reasoning behind this book. The first thing I always ask a client is, why are you writing this book? And if they tell me to sell millions of copies and become rich, I say I'm not the right writer for you, because that's not write a business book. We write a business book to know that we're the expert, to prove we're the expert. And the most important thing you can do, and my mentor says it over and over again, is speak. You have to be out speaking. If you want to make any kind of real headway as a business entrepreneur, get out there in front of the public. And when you speak, have a book in your hand. And that's so we teach them all those elements. It's not just writing the book. It's a little more than that. Not more than that.
Yeah, and so we kind of touched on this, but what are some of the reasons that someone, obviously it's a huge authority bump, but what are some other reasons that someone would want to have a book to their name?
Well, really, it's definitely validation. I think anyone could say, well, I've written a book on something, what's the expression? Well, you must have written the book on that one. Really you're saying, I know something someone else doesn't know, or I know enough to teach you something, or, you have a client who puts the book behind him and says, that's my picture of me with my book. They see you when they walk in the office, your book should be sitting on your shelf. Is that your book? That's my book. Yeah, I wrote that. It definitely validates who you are. Absolutely gives you the clout to say you want to go out and speak, meet more people. So we own a networking company as well. We own a company Tangerine Networking Group. And Tangerine Networking Group started here in Tangerine, Florida. And now it's a pretty big group, and we're extending into other states now. But we always say to people, you know, you've got to get out in front of people. You've got to get out and see people, meet them person to person. A book is you. It's sending you out into the world. You can't be everywhere, but your book can. Your book can be everywhere. So it's your calling card. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And it can absolutely open doors for you without a question. Okay. So let's say that someone has it in their head. They've decided, Lil, I'm going to write a book. I want to do this. What's the process like? And, you know, I guess another question along with that is, you know, what should I have budgeted for this? I mean, if I want to have a basic business book, you know, I've got a lot of notes. I mean, and I guess there's some different ways that you can do this, right? You've got someone that maybe, you know, they've been writing blog articles for years. And then you may have somebody that says, well, you know, all the information's up in my head right now. I actually haven't put it out there. That would be another scenario. I mean, what are their options?
All right. Well, there's really, for us, it's kind of two ways that we can write a book for people. And some people have some fair writing skill. They write pretty well. Like you say, they write their own blogs. They've written technical manuals, whatever it might be. With someone who's got a lot of skill and a lot of material already gathered, we do what we call developmental editing, which is really not so much editing as it is writing in collaboration to some degree with the writer. So it's almost like co-authoring, but our name doesn't go on the book. And we do co-author with people. Sometimes we actually do have our name on the front cover of the book, and we contribute evenly to the book. But if you've got a lot of material and you've got a fairly decent writing skill, but you're not sure how to organize that material, the first thing we do is we sit down. Once we've established that you can afford us and we're going to work, we sit down and we say, okay, let's make a roadmap. Our roadmap is we're going from point A to point B. We want to tell people these things. What are our chapters going to be like? And we do an outline with a very complete outline. Maybe a dozen chapters, maybe 3 or 4 sub-chapters in each one, so they kind of get a breakdown of what they're going to learn. Because with business books, you want to give them a really good breakdown. And it could be anywhere from 3 to 10 sub-chapters inside of a chapter, subtitles, if you will. So once we have that, then we have a roadmap. And when you have a roadmap, you can go anywhere, right? So that's the first thing we do. And then we start to take the material they already have, and we set it in place. Okay, this belongs in chapter 3. This belongs in chapter 4. Ooh, maybe part of this belongs in chapter 2 and some in chapter 7. And then we have a starting point. And then we sort of look at each chapter, chapter by chapter, and we start to really fill it out. But they've got some meat on the bone already. Yeah. So for a thing like that, it's a lot less than for me to start from scratch with them, obviously, for one of my guys to start from scratch. So that's one way. The other way is if we ghostwrite all together and they say, look, I'm a terrible writer, but I know my subject matter. We're going to talk about, you know, the sale, you know, a specific kind of sales I do, or a specific kind of mortgage brokering I do, or I had one guy who wrote a book about traveling, and he all he does is broker the ability to get a mortgage for a boat, a high-end boat, or a big RV, which costs a lot of money, right? And he's the only guy who does that sort of, one of the few guys who does that sort of loans. He creates really good loans. So we built a fun book about why it's fun to go and do these things, why it's fun to own a boat. And he didn't want to write it all. I wrote the whole book, but his name's on the book, but he told me chapter by chapter, and we talked, you know, as we went. So that's really ghostwriting. So that's kind of the 2 primary ways. And then once we're done with that, it goes through copy editing usually. It's certainly proofreading, and we make sure it's, you know, tight, and off it goes. That's it.
And so budget-wise, you know, again, you kind of laid out a couple of scenarios, but, you know, what should I have socked away to begin the endeavor?
Okay. Well, we typically don't want a business book to go over 40,000 words altogether. So they're fairly thin books. They're going to be about 130 pages, give or take, right?
Right.
So if you're developmental editing and you've got a lot, we look at the material you have, and we kind of go case by case. It could be as little as maybe $3,000 if you've got a lot of material for us to just spend some time putting it all together. Typically speaking, it's more like 5 to 7 for us to work on something like that. In the $5 range is probably pretty typical for someone who has a lot of material and is in pretty good shape, and all we're doing is helping them organize that book. If I'm going to write it from scratch, or one of my team members is going to write it from scratch, you're looking at between 15 and 20,000 for that sort of a process typically. Now, sometimes it could be a little less. The book might be a little short. The guy might have a lot of material already like in his head that we can move more quickly with. But it's rarely that we do a book for less than 12,000 for the writing, and it's rarely that we do more than 20 for a business book. So I would say the sweet spot is probably right around 15,000 for us. And frankly, that's cheap. If you look at most, and we're growing, and eventually we're probably going to be more than that. But I talk to other ghostwriters who've been in the business, they're older and longer at it and, whatever, or have done more and more and more. And some of them are just in other locations. And they could start 25 to 35 for a business book. So we're pretty reasonable in the $15,000 range. That doesn't include your publishing, but it does include, pretty much, or even your last proofread, but just the writing alone. And then you might spend another $1,000 a proofread or maybe a little more. And then we typically charge around $2,000 for our publishing situation. So I think on our website, we have a package for, if I'm not mistaken, it's just under $20,000, includes everything. Mm-hmm. So that's us to write the book, have a final proofread of the book, and all of the accoutrement you need to publish and be ready to go. So it's right around 20 grand for the whole nine yards.
Yeah. What is the process typically like then for the customer, for your client, in terms of like how long will this take? How much work should they still plan on in terms of getting the material? Because obviously you can't create this stuff from scratch. You need, they need the.
We kind of do. Sometimes we do create it from scratch. What we do is typically this. Once they've agreed to the price, we know what we're going to build. We have an idea of what we're doing. We spend typically anywhere from 2 to 3 hours with them on an outline. So it's not in person. It doesn't have to be in person. Yeah. We can do like we're doing now, you and I. We can be on the phone. And we work through an outline. We say, okay, we introduction, chapters 1 through 12. We think it's going to be a breakdown. We talk it out. And once we have an idea, they know their topics. Once we have an idea, we generally have them give us all the topics they have in mind. Just onto a piece of paper. What do you have in mind? What are you trying to write about? Okay. I'll give you an example with the football player I'm working with. And we're actually co-writing a book. We sat down together and we started talking about, well, how are we going to structure this book? And what are the chapters going to be like? What do we want to tell teenagers to get them so they don't wind up living in their mother's basement and never failing to launch, never having that launch happen. So this is really, it's a non-failure to launch kind of book, right? So it took us a little battering back and forth, and we wound up with an outline. Once the outline's together, then we start with the introduction. Generally, I write the introduction based on what they've told me already, or we talk through the introduction. I write the introduction, I send it to them. They look at the introduction, they say yes or no. I like it, I don't like it. Hey, Lil, you missed over here, you forgot over here. Oh, I thought of something else I wanted to say. They give it back to me. So let's say I write the introduction on a Monday, and by Wednesday they have that in their inbox. By Friday, I expect them to give me some changes. By the time we talk again next Monday, we're on to chapter 1. And then we rinse and repeat. So then, okay, we've got that introduction ready, it's solid. Let's go to the next one. Once that's a solid done deal, you say that one's set, then we start on chapter 1. And we have the topics, we know our subtitles, we know our roadmap. So I just ask them questions, they speak, I type, and I stop them when I have a question. Mm-hmm. Or say, wait, you're off topic, I'm lost here. And that we do about an hour and a half to 2 hours each session. So they've got to carve that time out for me. They've got to give me at least an hour, preferably an hour and a half to 2 hours each week. Yeah. And they go ahead and they do that. All right. So then once that is set, we got that chapter done. The same exact thing happens. By Wednesday, a chapter's in their inbox. By Friday, they've told me their answers, what they like, don't like. And by the time we get to Monday again, we're back to chapter 2 and so on. So it would be typically within 12 to 15 weeks, their book is going through the process of being sent off to publishing. I think my business partner might have just jumped in. I don't know if she's here, but she doesn't know graphics, so I thought her being. So what's next would then be to go, once that's all done, so let's say typically within 12 weeks or so. Now, if someone's in a hurry and they say, oh my gosh, I have a conference coming up, and I'm going to speak in front of 5,000 people, 300 people, whatever it is, I need my book. I need it now. I need it in a month and a half, though. Can we do it? We just double that number. So Mondays we do chapter 1 and we bang it out. And then Thursday we do chapter 2 and we just work harder and we work faster. And then we can do that same process in 8 weeks if we have to. It's not a
Yeah.
profitable thing, and it's going to cost you more money, to be honest with you, because we got to put that time aside and somebody else isn't getting our time. But if it's more important you to spend an extra $5,000 and have us do it inside of 6 to 8 weeks, we've done it and we can do it. I wrote a fictional book in 4 weeks because a man was meeting with a film company and he needed the book in his hand. And
My goodness.
it's all fiction, but it had to be done. I just put my head down and I wrote a book, and we've got 35 five-star reviews. US Book Review reviewed it and said it was fantastic. And he's meeting with the film company. And book 2 now is out as well, which I wrote in 8 weeks. You know, he has the whole series, book 1 and book 2, to go to the film company with. They're already excited about the idea of making a film of it.
Yeah. So all these reviews, and this is the last question. And so is it important to be, #1 rated best-selling author on Amazon? Do you get involved in that? I mean,
We have companies we go
so
to.
easy to game that system and get that recognition that means nothing to me now. But I know that it means a lot to the author and maybe someone who doesn't really understand that.
It really depends on your goal, Josh. I mean, like, if your goal is to sell a lot of books, that does seem to look good to people. But frankly, so many people get it by just getting all their friends and family to buy the book for 99 cents on the same day. If that's your goal, then we don't tell you that's a bad idea. Sure, good reviews are a hell of a lot better than bad reviews, like anything else. You don't go to a restaurant without checking Yelp. But the truth is, what do you want the book to do? And what you ought to want the book to do as a business person is say, I'm the best realtor in Tampa Bay. I am the smartest cook, and I have the best recipes that'll get you to lose weight, and I need you to do and be able to go out and cook and show people and say, here's my book. Are you going to sell enough books to cover what you spent on it? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're a realtor and you sell $1 million house because that book showed you to be the best one,
exactly,
you're more than made that money back, and you're going to do a lot more than that. And it's a terrific look at me. I'm the best at what I do, and it can be expensive if your book isn't bad. We also write ebooks for people that they can put on a website and give it away. Those aren't very expensive at all. We have in and out of those from $5,000 to $7,000. There's no publishing. It's just a printable book, right? So there's a million ways you can go. The book ought to be a tool you use as a speaker, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. And the Amazon thing, could be good, could be not so much. With fiction, you want some traction with fiction. You want it to rise up, but because there's so many fiction books, it's hard to sell them. And it's impossible to get them published traditionally. It's impossible. Well, if you're not going to get a traditional publishing company to look at your book, even if you're an NFL football player, we will publish Aziz's book, because even as much as there are lots of out of work NFL football players who are retired at 50, there's plenty of them. Mm-hmm. And unless you're like Tiger Woods or playing golf, or those guys they're going to get. And if you're a very, very, very well-known salesman, Zig Ziglar or something, you can have anybody publish his book. So Zig's gone, but Tom's his kid. We deal with Tom actually sometimes. So there's lots of reasons to get a book. So, but not too many reasons to worry about whether or not you get 5-star reviews on Amazon. They're just nice feathers in your cap.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, Lil Barcaski, thank you so much for joining us again. So the name of your kind of the umbrella corporation is it was LongBar, right?
Yes, we're Long and Barcaski. We're Cindy Long. It's my graphic designer extraordinaire, networking guru. We're writing a book on networking together, and she and I work together with LongBar. She's the Long. I'm the Bar for Barcaski, and we're LongBar Creative Solutions, and we're basically a full service business consultancy. So we can help you.
The website, just based on what we've been talking about today, ghostwritersnetwork.com. And so do you, so you offer free consultations. So I think you could probably figure out with someone very quickly whether or not it would make sense to go down this road and what kind of package they would need. And so they can get a realistic expectation about what that might look like. So again, there's right on the front page, it says, would you like a free consultation about your book? We'd love to discuss it with you. Just click here. And then that brings up the contact form. You can kind of go from there. So Lil, thank you so much. This was really, really great information. Yeah, I believe it or not, I don't have a book yet. Like I said, I've written a gazillion articles. I've produced, hours and hours of video, just kind of off the cuff teaching on my subject. So it seems to me like I probably just need to get off my hands and just get this done.
Anytime you want some help, give us a call. I'll put you with one.
Sounds great. Lil, thank you.
Oh, thank you. This was delightful. I really enjoyed talking to you.